My name is Kang Minjae, and according to every government scanner in Korea, I am the weakest awakened human being who has ever managed to survive tying his own shoes. That is not an insult I made up. It is written on my official hunter card. Rank, F. Mana output, 0. Combat specialization, none detected. Potential growth, impossible to calculate. Special note, retesting not recommended because previous machine exploded. The last part sounds impressive until you hear what the technician wrote underneath it. Likely electrical defect. So for 3 years, I lived as the human version of extra luggage. Whenever a guild needed somebody to carry potions, mark tunnels, hold spare socks, or walk behind the real hunters and shout if something ugly came from the rear, they hired me for minimum wage. I was not even allowed to hold the good backpacks. Those were apparently combat assets. I carried the lunchboxes. The funny part was that I never lied about being strong. People just never asked the right question. They asked, "How much mana do you have?" I said, "None that you can detect." They heard, "None." They asked, "What skill did you awaken?" I said, "I don't know what to call it." They heard, "Nothing." They asked, "Can you fight?" I said, "Probably." They heard, "No." That was how I became known across low-tier guild forums as Backpack Minjae. There were memes. One showed an F-rank goblin carrying me. Another showed me losing an arm wrestling match to a healing potion. My favorite had a picture of an empty mana crystal with my face pasted onto it and the caption, "Still stronger than this guy." I printed that one and put it on my refrigerator. The truth was, my awakening happened when I was 17, and it did not give me fire, lightning, telekinesis, beast transformation, sword aura, shadow soldiers, healing, or any other respectable power that could be sold on merchandise. It gave me silence. Not normal silence. The kind of silence that existed before the universe decided explosions were fun. The moment I awakened, every trace of mana inside me stopped behaving like mana. It folded inward. It disappeared from scanners. It vanished from detection skills. Even monsters that hunted by magical scent walked past me unless they saw me with their eyes. At first, I thought I had awakened some pathetic stealth ability. Then a C-rank assassin tried to rob me outside a convenience store. He grabbed my shoulder. His stealth skill turned off. His reinforcement skill turned off. His dagger enchantment turned off. The resurrection charm around his neck turned off. Then his expensive magically enhanced pants turned off. I learned 2 things that night. First, anything supernatural that entered a certain distance around me became quiet. Second, magical pants apparently needed mana to remain the correct size. I gave him my jacket and told him to reconsider his life. After that, I experimented. Carefully, if I stood near a flame mage, his fire became a candle. If I touched a barrier, it became a wall-shaped suggestion. If I entered a dungeon, the dungeon itself seemed to hold its breath. The strongest effect happened when something tried to attack me directly. Mana did not merely weaken. It submitted. Skills unraveled. Curses forgot what they were doing. Summons looked confused, reconsidered their employment contracts, and disappeared. Once, an angry necromancer sent 12 skeletons after me. The skeletons fell apart so politely that one of them placed its skull on the ground before collapsing. I called my awakening 0. The government called it undetectable anomaly. Possibly defective. I preferred mine. I also kept it secret, not because I was mysterious, because the first time I tried to explain it, a research guild offered to buy the legal rights to my body for 42 million won. They had already prepared the contract. There was a section titled Posthumous Disassembly. I decided poverty was healthier, so I carried lunches. That was my life right up until the day the sky above Seoul cracked open like somebody had punched a window from the other side. I was in the lobby of the White Tiger Crown Guild, holding 6 iced coffees, when every emergency siren in the building started screaming. The giant wall display went red. Hunters stopped talking. The receptionist dropped her tablet. Then the system message appeared across every licensed hunter interface in the country. A calamity-class gate had opened over Namsan. Estimated rank, SSS. Probability of dungeon break within 6 hours, 98%. Expected monster wave if break occurs. Metropolitan extinction event. Recommended response, evacuation. One of the S-rank hunters in the lobby read that last word and laughed. Not because it was funny, because when people become strong enough, terror comes out sounding strange. Within 20 minutes, every famous hunter in the capital was summoned. There was Seo Ji-hoon, the sword saint, who had once cut a typhoon in half because it interrupted his outdoor interview. There was Han Yuri, Korea's highest-ranked ice mage, known online as the Frozen Empress, even though she was 24 and still called her mother whenever she had to make a dentist appointment. There was Park Do-yeon, an S-rank tank whose defensive skill had allegedly survived a tactical missile. He brought the shield. The shield had its own insurance policy. There were healers, summoners, archers, spearmen, barrier specialists, curse breakers, and one guy whose official class was Dragon Negotiator, which sounded fake until a small red dragon landed on his shoulder and asked where the snacks were. And then there was me. I got summoned because Captain Choi from logistics accidentally added all active personnel. When I arrived at the gate assembly point, carrying 36 energy gels and a folding stool, the raid commander stared at me like I had shown up to a funeral wearing swimming goggles. Why is he here? Captain Choi looked at his tablet. Administrative error. The raid commander pointed toward the evacuation buses. Send him home. That should have been the end of it. Then the SSS-Rank gate pulsed. Every mana sensor in the area burst at the same time. People screamed. Windows shattered. The little red dragon on the negotiator's shoulder fainted into a bag of chips. And for 1 second, the gate turned transparent. I saw something inside looking back. Not a monster. Not exactly. A massive shape sat on a throne made of swords. It had 6 horns, black wings, and eyes like burning planets. Its presence pressed through the gate hard enough to make S-rank hunters drop to one knee. Everyone except me. I was busy trying to keep 36 energy gels from rolling down the street. Then the thing on the throne saw me. Its eyes widened. It stood up. And even through the gate, even through layers of distorted space, I saw its mouth form 2 words. No way. That got my attention. The gate opened 10 minutes later. The plan was simple. 32 elite hunters would enter. They would map the first sector, identify the dungeon type, establish a retreat route, and avoid direct engagement with the boss until support teams arrived. I would stay outside. That plan lasted 11 seconds. The moment the first raid team crossed the gate, the entrance began collapsing. The spatial barrier folded like burning paper. A system warning flashed. Entry closing. Raid members registered. 33. I looked around. 32 elites. 1 idiot holding energy gels. Why am I registered? I asked. Captain Choi, still outside, looked horrified. Then the dungeon sucked me in. I landed face first on black stone. My iced coffee, which I had somehow still been holding, flew across the room and splashed directly onto Sword Saint Seo Ji-hoon's white cape. He slowly turned around. I decided death by SSS-Rank monster might be faster. The dungeon was enormous. A black road stretched through a dead city beneath a purple moon. Buildings leaned sideways as if gravity had been drinking. Far in the distance, a castle floated upside down. A river flowed through the sky. Millions of red eyes opened in the streets. The system identified the first wave. Abyss Hounds. Rank A. Count 12,000. Park Doyen lifted his shield. Han Yuri began forming a glacier spear. Seo Ji-hun drew his sword. I picked up my spilled energy gels. Then the hounds charged. The elites moved first. Sword aura tore through buildings. Ice froze entire intersections. Arrows multiplied in the air until the sky looked covered in silver rain. The tank slammed his shield into the ground and created a barrier 300 meters wide. It was beautiful. It was terrifying. It was also completely unnecessary. The first hound reached within 15 meters of me. Its eyes changed. The red glow disappeared. Its magical armor vanished. Its body shrank. The giant nightmare wolf suddenly looked like an oversized hairless dog that had made several poor nutritional choices. It tripped over its own paws and rolled into my leg. The next hound crossed the same invisible line. Then the next. Then 50. Then 500. A wave of A-rank monsters became a tumbling avalanche of confused dogs. One landed on Seo Ji-hoon. Another stole Park Dayan's boot. 3 surrounded Han Yuri and started licking the ice off her staff. Nobody moved. I scratched the nearest hound behind the ear. It wagged its tail. Seo Ji-hoon stared at me. What did you do? Nothing. One of the hounds sneezed. I pointed at it. That one did something. The Sword Saint did not laugh. Han Yuri did. That was the first mistake, because the dungeon heard her. The dead city shook. The purple moon opened like an eye. A voice thundered from the sky. Who dares mock the first trial? Everyone looked up. I looked at Han Yuri. She immediately stopped laughing. A gigantic knight descended from the moon, riding a skeletal horse with flaming wings. The system screamed warnings. Gatekeeper of Ruin. Rank SS. Ability. Death Charge. Ability, Soul Severance. Ability, Immortal Armor. Weakness, Unknown. The knight pointed a spear at us. Then it charged. Every elite hunter launched an attack. The Sword Saint cut the street in half. Han Yuri summoned an ice dragon. Park Doyen expanded his shield into a fortress. The knight smashed through all of it, straight toward me. I sighed. Of course. The spear entered my range. Its black flames disappeared. The immortal armor lost its glow. The skeletal horse became normal bones. Momentum still existed. That was important. The horse collapsed at full speed. The knight flew forward like a refrigerator thrown from a truck. I stepped aside. It crashed through a statue, bounced off a fountain, spun twice, and landed upside down in a bakery window. There was a long silence. Then its helmet rolled toward me. I picked it up. A blue ghostly face appeared inside. The knight whispered, Are you the Quiet King? I frowned. The what? Its eyes rolled back. The helmet shut off. Behind me, 32 elite hunters were staring. I held up the helmet. Does anyone know what a Quiet King is? Nobody answered. One of the weakened abyss hounds barked. Thank you, I said. Very helpful. We moved deeper. That was when things became weird. Not dangerous. Weird. Every monster that saw me reacted differently. A squad of demon archers dropped their bows and pretended to be statues. A giant ogre crawled under a table that was smaller than its head. A vampire count threw holy water on himself. A cursed tree uprooted its own roots and sprinted away. At one point, a B-rank mimic disguised as a treasure chest opened itself, placed all its gold on the floor, closed its lid, and slid backward down a hallway. The elites began walking behind me. At first they claimed it was tactical. Then they started hiding behind me. Park Doyen, a man built like a truck, physically moved me in front of him whenever we turned a corner. You have an S-rank shield, I told him. Yes. You survived a tactical missile. Yes. You are using me as cover. Yes. Why? He pointed at a doorway. A small demon was peeking through it. The demon saw me and fainted. Park Doyen nodded. The dungeon kept trying to compensate. The first floor boss fled. The second floor boss resigned. The third floor boss challenged us to a cooking contest instead of combat. He was a 6-armed troll named Grumblack the Eater of Empires. His signature dish was lava stew. Han Yuri froze the lava. I added instant ramen seasoning. We won. Grumblack cried, handed me a golden key, and asked for the recipe. By the fourth floor, the system stopped showing normal messages. It displayed dungeon difficulty recalibrating. Then, dungeon difficulty recalibrating again. Then, please stop. I had never seen a dungeon beg before. Seo Ji-hun walked beside me. Suspicious. You knew what? That you could do this. I knew I could make magic stop working near me. He nearly tripped. You say that like you are describing a kitchen appliance. It was not useful in school. Minjae, you turned 12,000 A-rank monsters into pets. One of the hounds was still following us. It had found a helmet and was carrying it like a bull. I looked at it. Technically that one turned itself into a pet. Seo Ji-hun grabbed my shoulder. The instant his hand touched me, the silver aura around his body vanished. His enchanted boots stopped glowing. His sword began making a sad crackling noise. His hair, which I had assumed was naturally dramatic, immediately flattened. Han Yuri laughed so hard she had to sit down. Seo Ji-hun released me. His hair rose again. He stared at his own reflection in the sword. Then at me. We tell no one about this. Han Yuri raised her phone. I already took a picture. You have signal? No. Then delete it. No. For the first time since entering the SSS-Rank gate, everyone relaxed. That lasted until we reached the 5th floor. The hallway opened into a cathedral filled with giant black mirrors. In every mirror, I saw myself, but not as I was. In one, I wore a crown made of broken halos. In another, I stood on a mountain of dead dragons. In another, my shadow stretched across an entire planet. In the last one, there was no reflection, only darkness. Then something inside the mirror spoke. Found you. The cathedral doors slammed shut. My ability did not stop them. That was the first moment I became worried. The mirrors cracked. 32 figures stepped out. Perfect copies of the elite hunters. Copy Seo Ji-hun drew a black sword. Copy Han Yuri smiled with frozen eyes. Copy Park Doyen lifted a shield made of bone. Then one more figure emerged from the final mirror. It was me. Same face, same cheap jacket, same tired expression, except his eyes were completely black. He looked at me and smiled. Zero cannot silence zero. I stared at him. He stared back. The elites prepared to fight their doubles. My copy stretched his neck. The dungeon finally seemed confident. Then I punched myself in the face. Not me, the copy. He flew across the cathedral, broke 6 mirrors, and embedded himself in a pillar. Everyone froze. I shook my hand. Ow. Han Yuri blinked. Was that mana? No. Skill? No. How did you do that? I work in logistics. That explains nothing. Have you ever unloaded a truck full of raid equipment because 3 C ranks called in sick? She thought about it. Fair. My copy crawled out of the wall. His nose was bleeding. He looked offended. I had never seen my own face look so personally betrayed. Then he raised his hand, and the entire cathedral turned black. The copies attacked. Chaos exploded. Sword met sword. Ice dragon met shadow dragon. Shields crashed hard enough to bend the floor. I ran toward my double while he threw black spears that vanished as soon as they got close to me. He tried curses. Nothing. He tried gravity magic. Nothing. He tried summoning a meteor. The meteor crossed my range and became a warm rock the size of a potato. I caught it. Thanks. I threw it back. It hit him in the forehead. He screamed. That was when I realized the problem. My power was not the reason I was winning. He had copied Zero perfectly, but he had also copied my body from the government database. The database had me listed as an average F-rank support porter. It did not know I had spent 3 years training without mana, because every magical enhancement stopped working around me. No healing buff, no strength skill, no stamina potion. If I wanted to survive carrying equipment through dungeons, I had to become strong the old-fashioned way. So while S-rank hunters trained their abilities, I trained my legs because elevators sometimes stopped working near me. While mages increased spell output, I learned boxing from a retired gate guard. While assassins practiced invisibility, I learned how to sprint while carrying 80 kilograms because apparently potion crates were not that heavy. My copy had my power. He did not have my calluses. I beat myself up for 6 straight minutes. It was incredibly therapeutic. The elite copies disappeared when I knocked mine unconscious. The real hunters stood in the wreckage, breathing hard. Park Do-yeon looked at me. Remind me never to make fun of your rank again. You made fun of my rank? He looked away. Not recently. Han Yuri pointed at my unconscious double. Can we keep him? No. He looks easier to talk to. He tried to kill us. You're avoiding the question. The black-eyed copy opened one eye. He grabbed my ankle and whispered one sentence before dissolving. The throne remembers your first death. I stopped smiling because I remembered my awakening. I remembered the silence. I remembered waking up in a hospital at 17, but I did not remember dying. The dungeon did. That was a problem. We did not get time to investigate. The floor vanished. 1 second I was standing in the cathedral. The next, I was falling through the sky with 32 screaming elite hunters. Below us floated hundreds of islands chained together around a black sun. On each island stood an army, orcs, demons, living suits of armor, stone giants, winged serpents. One island was entirely covered in clowns. I did not ask. I had learned that asking questions inside high-rank dungeons usually caused the dungeon to answer. The system message appeared in front of us. 6th trial, War of 100 Kings. Victory condition, conquer all kingdoms. Time limit, 72 hours. Failure condition, soul erasure. Co Ji-hun read it while falling. 72 hours? Han Yuri screamed back. We are currently more concerned about the ground. Park Do-yeon activated a floating barrier. Nothing happened. He looked at me. I looked at him. Oh, my range had disabled half the raid's movement skills. Move away from me. Everyone scattered in mid-air. 32 hunters suddenly regained flight. Teleportation, wind steps, gravity control, and whatever other unfair things rich guild members use to avoid stairs. I continued falling. Han Yuri flew down. Grab my hand. If you get too close, your flight turns off. Then what's your plan? I pointed at the island below. Trees. There were no trees. There was, however, an enormous red dragon. I landed on it. The dragon's wings lost their mana reinforcement. We both fell. The dragon screamed. I screamed. The raid team screamed. For about 5 seconds, we achieved perfect international understanding. Then the dragon crashed into a mountain. I rolled off its back, stood up, and dusted myself off. The dragon lifted its enormous head. Its eyes glowed. Then the glow died when it saw me. It spoke in a deep voice. Quiet. No. It blinked. No titles until someone explains them. The dragon slowly lowered its head. Understood. Everyone landed behind me. Co Ji-hun looked from me to the dragon. Did you just discipline an S-rank dragon? I asked a reasonable question. The dragon raised one claw. May I answer? Please. Its voice shook. The Quiet King is the name forbidden among beings born before the gates. The one whose presence returns all power to nothing. The enemy of blessing, curse, law, fate, immortality, prophecy, and overpriced magical cosmetics. Seo Ji-hun touched his hair. I ignored him. Why would that be me? The dragon stared. Because you smell exactly like him. That is rude. No, Lord. I mean metaphysically. Still rude. Han Yuri stepped forward. What happened to the original Quiet King? The dragon immediately pretended to be dead. It dropped its head and stuck out its tongue. Park Do-yeon poked it. You were just talking. The dragon did not move. I leaned closer. Its eyelid twitched. Tell me. The dragon whispered. He died. My stomach tightened. How? The dragon opened one eye. Everyone helped. Then every island around us fired at once. Apparently the War of 100 Kings had noticed we were wasting time. Cannons made from bones launched green fire. Giant bows fired arrows the size of buses. A floating wizard tower released a beam that turned 3 mountains into glass. The elite hunters spread out. I did the opposite. I walked to the highest point on the island and raised both hands. Wait! No army waited. The attacks came down like the end of the world. Then they entered my range. Spells vanished. Curses vanished. Enchanted arrows became normal arrows and fell short. The giant bone cannons cracked because their magical reinforcement disappeared. The wizard tower's beam turned into a line of warm air. One enormous flaming boulder became a regular boulder. Unfortunately, regular boulders were still boulders. It hit the mountain behind me and destroyed half of it. I turned around. Okay, physical objects remain a problem. Han Yuri floated above me. You discovered that now? I had suspicions. The dragon slowly stood up. Lord, if I may suggest a strategy? Yes, surrender. Seo Ji-hun frowned. We are supposed to conquer them. The dragon pointed at me. Not you. Them. Then the dragon inhaled. Its throat glowed. I stepped away so my ability would stop suppressing it. The dragon roared one sentence so loudly that all 100 islands heard it. The quiet king has returned. Silence. Then 97 armies surrendered. 3 did not. The Clown Island started playing drums. The Wizard Kingdom raised a sign that said they wanted proof. And the largest island, ruled by something called the Emperor of 10,000 Spears, launched another boulder. The boulder hit the dragon. The dragon looked at me. Permission to be offended? Granted. What happened next was less like war and more like an angry natural disaster. The dragon burned the Spear Kingdom's outer walls. Seo Ji-hun cut their fortress in half. Han Yuri froze their lake, then apologized because it contained civilians. Then unfroze the civilians but left the enemy boats trapped inside cubes of ice. Park Do-yeon used his shield as a sled and somehow flattened an entire cavalry unit. I walked through the center. Every enchanted weapon near me turned ordinary. Every summoned beast disappeared. Every defensive blessing shut off. The enemy commanders would raise legendary weapons, shout the names of their ultimate techniques, and then look confused when nothing happened. One spearmaster screamed, "Heaven-piercing dragon star annihilation." His spear made a tiny metallic click. I took it from him. Nice spear. He sat down and surrendered. The Wizard Kingdom lasted even less time. Their king was a floating skull wearing 7 crowns. He prepared a spell with 89 magic circles. I entered the room. All 89 circles vanished. The skull fell out of the air. I caught it before it hit the floor. He looked up at me. I spent 9 centuries learning that spell. Sorry. Do you know how difficult it is to draw 89 circles? No. Very. I believe you. He surrendered and asked if he could join our raid as an intern. We said no. That left the Clown Island. Nobody wanted to go. Not even the dragon. Especially the dragon. Why are you afraid of clowns? I asked. The dragon looked ashamed. They do not use mana. That was the worst sentence anyone had spoken all day. We approached the island carefully. There were no walls, no soldiers, just thousands of clowns standing in rows. No magic, no aura, no detectable skills. They stared at us. I stared back. One honked a horn. Park Do-yeon flinched. Then the clowns attacked. They were terrifying, not because they were powerful, because they ignored every normal rule of combat. One rode a tiny bicycle between Seo Ji-hun's legs. Another hit Han Yuri with a cream pie. 3 climbed onto Park Do-yeon's shield and began performing a dance. The red dragon got trapped in an impossibly small car. I was surrounded by 20 clowns wielding rubber chickens. 0 did nothing because there was no mana to suppress. For the first time in years, I had found my natural enemy, professional entertainers. The Clown King emerged from a giant gift box. He was 7 feet tall. He wore a gold crown and carried a squeaky hammer. His system rank was listed as ? He pointed the hammer at me. I challenge you to single combat. I raised my fists. He shook his head. Then he pulled out 2 folding chairs and a chessboard. I challenge you to single combat. Han Yuri wiped pie from her face. Is that chess? The Clown King honked. It was chess. I was terrible at chess. The Clown King was worse. He moved a bishop like a horse. I told him that was illegal. He accused me of inventing rules to oppress him. Then he ate one of my pawns. We argued for 10 minutes. Eventually, I won by flipping the board when he was not looking. He respected this. The Clown Kingdom surrendered. The system announced that we had conquered 100 kingdoms in 43 minutes. New record. Previous record, unavailable because no raid had survived longer than 11 hours. Reward. Crown of 100 Kings. A golden crown appeared over my head. The moment it touched my hair, its magic shut off and it became a heavy piece of metal. It slipped over my forehead and covered my eyes. Han Yuri took a picture. I removed the crown. Delete it. No, we expected the 7th trial. Instead, the black sun cracked. The entire sky split open. A staircase descended from the darkness. At the top waited the upside-down castle we had seen from the first floor. Only now it was right side up. The system displayed one final message. Final chamber unlocked. Boss rank, SSS. Boss title, Velzeroth. Last general of the first throne. Threat designation, extinction. Recommended minimum raid strength, 12 SSS-Rank hunters. Hunters currently matching recommendation, 0. Park Do-yeon reread the message. 12? Seo Ji-hun looked at me. We have Minjae. I pointed at myself. My card says F. Han Yuri smiled. Then statistically, we have -11. Nobody laughed except the dragon. It laughed so hard it coughed smoke. We climbed. With every step, the pressure increased. The red dragon could not continue past the halfway point. It bowed to me and refused to say why. The lower-ranked members began collapsing near the top. Eventually, only 5 of us reached the final door. Me, Seo Ji-hun, Han Yuri, Park Do-yeon, and an S-rank healer named Lee Sora, who had spoken maybe 6 words since entering the dungeon because she was busy keeping everyone alive while the rest of us behaved like unsupervised children. The final doors were made of black metal. They opened before we touched them. The throne room was larger than a stadium. Thousands of swords floated in the air. At the far end sat the creature I had seen through the gate. Velzeroth, 6 horns, black wings, armor made from something that looked like night. In one hand, he held a sword so large it had its own weather system. Lightning crawled around the blade. A black storm spun above it. Every step he took made the floor crack. Seo Ji-hun raised his sword. Han Yuri formed 6 frozen moons behind her. Park Do-yeon planted his shield. Lee Sora activated every blessing she had. I stood in the back. Habit. Velzeroth walked forward. His aura hit us. Seo Ji-hun's knees bent. Han Yuri coughed blood. Park Do-yeon's shield cracked. Lee Sora's blessings shattered one by one. The system showed his stats. Strength, immeasurable. Mana, immeasurable. Authority, sovereign. Immortality layers, 9. Active curses, 41. Passive world destruction, enabled. That last one seemed unnecessary. Velzeroth lifted his sword. Seo Ji-hun whispered, "On my signal." Then the monster looked past him. At me. Everything stopped. The lightning around the sword vanished. Not because of Zero. Velzeroth had dismissed it himself. His wings folded. His aura disappeared. His sword slipped from his hand. It hit the floor so hard the throne room shook. The SSS-Rank boss took one step backward. Then another. Then another. Seo Ji-hun lowered his sword slightly. Han Yuri forgot to breathe. Park Do-yeon whispered, "No way." Velzeroth stared at me like a man who had opened his bathroom door and found a shark. Then he dropped to one knee. Not attacked. Not charged. Not transformed. Kneeled. His voice came out as a whisper. "My king." I wished the floor would open. Not because I was scared. Because 32 elite hunters had already spent the entire dungeon becoming increasingly suspicious of me. And this was not helping. Seo Ji-hun turned his head very slowly. F rank. I raised one finger. In my defense, the government printed the card. Velzeroth's face twisted. "You returned. I think you have me confused with someone." His eyes flashed. "Your soul cannot be confused. My soul has paperwork saying otherwise." He looked offended by the concept of paperwork. Then he saw the crown under my arm. The crown of 100 kings. His expression became worse. "You reclaimed the lesser crown. Won it from a clown." Silence. Velzeroth looked at the crown. Then at me. "Of course you did." Han Yuri leaned toward me. "Why does an extinction-class demon sound tired of you?" "I have never met him." Velzeroth heard that. His head snapped up. "You do not remember?" "No." "The throne?" "No." "The Void Court?" "No." "The 9 rebellions?" "No." "The banquet where you turned the god of storms into a chicken?" I paused. "That sounds useful." Velzeroth covered his face with one hand. "You remember nothing." "Correct." He stood. For the first time, fear disappeared from his expression. It was replaced by something more dangerous. Hope. Then the throne behind him opened an eye. An enormous eye. The entire castle groaned. Velzeroth spun around. No. Black chains erupted from the throne. They stabbed through his wings, wrapped around his arms, pierced his armor. The SSS-Rank boss roared as the throne dragged him backward. The system messages went insane. Hidden entity awakening. Dungeon authority transferring. Boss Velzeroth status changed. Prisoner. True final boss detected. Rank, unavailable. Name, throne parasite. Origin, outside system jurisdiction. The giant eye focused on me. My skin went cold. Not because its mana was overwhelming. It had no mana. None. Just like me. A voice entered my head. "Return to your seat." I heard myself answer before I decided to speak. No. Every sword in the throne room turned toward us. Velzeroth shouted, "Run." Seo Ji-hun launched a slash. The swords absorbed it. Han Yuri froze the floor. Black roots shattered the ice. Park Do-yeon raised his shield. The throne parasite sent one thin tendril forward. It pierced the S-rank shield as if it were paper. That was when I understood why my power had not stopped the cathedral doors. Why the clowns had been dangerous. Why my copy said Zero could not silence Zero. Something inside this dungeon had been testing ways to kill me without mana, and now it had finished testing. I walked forward. Seo Ji-hun grabbed my arm. "What are you doing?" "Making a bad decision." "Good. I was worried you had a plan." The throne parasite attacked. Thousands of physical swords launched at once. Not enchanted, not summoned, just metal moving very fast. Zero could not erase them, so I did the only clever thing available. I stepped behind Park Do-yeon. He stared at me. You criticized me for doing this earlier. I understand you now. He raised the broken shield. The first wave hit. The shield exploded. Seo Ji-hun cut down hundreds of swords. Han Yuri created walls of ordinary ice from frozen water instead of magical barriers. Lee Sora dragged Park Do-yeon away after 3 blades hit his armor. We advanced 1 meter at a time. Velzeroth screamed from the throne. My king. The parasite learned from your death. It cannot use mana near you, so it built a body from matter and law. What does law mean? A glowing command appeared in the air. Kneel. My knees buckled. That, Velzeroth said. I hit the floor. Not magic. Not a curse. A rule. The throne room itself had decided that anyone inside it must kneel. Seo Ji-hun slammed down beside me. Han Yuri cursed. Park Do-yeon was already on the floor, so he claimed it did not count. The parasite's eye widened. Return to your seat. I could barely move. Then Lee Sora did something unexpected. She laughed. Everyone looked at her. The quiet healer pushed herself onto one knee. Minjae, what? Your ability cancels supernatural effects, right? Usually. But this is a rule? Yes. She smiled. Then break the room. I understood immediately. I punched the floor. Nothing happened. My hand hurt. Seo Ji-hun stared at me. That was your plan? I thought it would be more dramatic. Han Yuri pointed at the thousands of swords. Try harder. So we did something stupider. Park Do-yeon took the crown of 100 kings, which was currently a useless heavy metal circle in my range. He wedged it beneath a cracked floor tile. Seo Ji-hun used his sword as a lever. Han Yuri froze water inside the cracks and expanded it. Lee Sora used a healing skill on Seo Ji-hun's back because he threw it out while lifting. I pushed. The floor broke. Just one tile. But the rule flickered. Kneel. Knee. Nothing. The throne parasite had made the command part of the room. We had technically changed the room. I stood. Your rules are badly written. The giant eye narrowed. More commands appeared. Do not approach. I took 1 step backward, turned around, and walked backward toward the throne. Han Yuri started laughing. The command changed. Do not move closer. Seo Ji-hun picked up a broken piece of floor and threw it behind me. The recoil pushed me forward half a step. The throne began shaking. The command changed again. Remain at a distance of at least 100 meters. I looked around. Park. He understood. The tank grabbed me with both arms. Sorry. For what? He threw me. I flew across the room like a human spear. The rule tried to stop me. But technically, I was not controlling my movement. The throne parasite had apparently not expected legal arguments during combat. I crashed directly into the giant eye. For 1 beautiful second, the entire SSS-Rank dungeon made a sound like a squeaky toy. Then everything exploded. I landed inside the throne. There was no room, no castle, no raid team, only darkness. A figure stood in front of me. He looked like me, not the cheap mirror copy. Older, taller, wearing black armor. A crown of broken halos floated above his head. His eyes were calm, tired, ancient. I knew him. I did not know how I knew him, but I did. He was the person from the mirrors, the person the monsters remembered, the person I apparently used to be. He looked at me and sighed. You took your time. I raised my fists. He raised an eyebrow. Is that how you greet yourself? Last version of me tried to kill me. That one was made from dungeon data. And you? I am made from regret. That sounds worse. He smiled. At least he had my sense of humor. Behind him appeared 9 enormous doors. Each had a different symbol. A dragon eating a star. A sword through an hourglass. A crown underwater. A laughing skull. An empty circle. He pointed at the doors. The parasite is not the enemy. Great. It is a lock. Less great. And you just broke it. I stared at him. He stared at me. Outside the darkness, I could hear Velzeroth screaming. The old me continued. You were not reborn because you failed to kill the gods. I felt something crack behind my eyes. Memories flashed. A battlefield made of moons. Creatures larger than continents. My hands covered in black light. A throne surrounded by kneeling monsters. Then a spear through my chest. Not 1 spear. 9. 9 figures standing around me. One of them crying. Another laughing. Another wearing a human face I recognized from somewhere I could not place. The memory vanished. I staggered. What was that? Your first death. Who killed me? The old me looked toward the 9 doors. People you trusted. That was irritatingly dramatic. Names? Not yet. Why does everyone in this dungeon refuse to answer simple questions? Because if I say their names, they will know you remember. Do I remember? No. Then this seems inefficient. He almost laughed. Then the darkness began breaking apart. The parasite was pulling me out. My old self grabbed my wrist. The moment he touched me, Zero did not silence him. It expanded. For the first time since I awakened, I felt my power instead of the absence of it. It was not emptiness. It was pressure. Infinite pressure folded so tightly inward, that no scanner could see it. My mana had never been 0. It had been compressed beyond detection, like trying to weigh an ocean while it was hidden inside a drop of water. The old me whispered, "Do not open the 9th door." Which one is the 9th? He looked behind me. A door I had not noticed stood alone. It had no symbol. Its handle was already turning. Then I woke up. I was back in the throne room. My hand was buried inside the giant eye. The parasite screamed. 0 spread. Not 15 meters. Not 50. The entire castle went silent. Every floating sword fell. Every black root collapsed. Every system window disappeared. The purple moon outside went dark. The river in the sky crashed downward. The armies on the floating islands lost their magical support and began screaming as their islands started falling. I immediately pulled my power back. The system returned with one confused message. Error. Then another. Please do not do that again. I looked at the thrown parasite. It was shrinking. Its massive eye became the size of a car. Then a ball. Then an apple. It dropped into my hand. The apple blinked. I nearly threw it. Velzeroth tore free from the weakened chains. He landed in front of me. Then he saw the blinking apple. His expression became complicated. "You defeated it." "I think so." The apple bit my finger. Ow. I dropped it. It rolled under the throne. Maybe not. Behind me, the others were struggling to stand. Seo Ji-hoon's sword was broken. Han Yuri had lost one shoe. Park Do-yeon's famous shield looked like somebody had fed it into industrial machinery. Lee Sora had healed everyone except herself and was leaning against a wall. I looked around. The castle was still collapsing. The system displayed a new warning. Dungeon core destabilizing. Time until collapse. 4 minutes. Return gate unavailable. Seo Ji-hoon laughed. Of course. Velzeroth looked at me. There is another exit. Where? The throne. I stared at the enormous black throne. No, it is a gate. No, my king. I have had a bad day with thrones. Han Yuri limped over. Can we debate your furniture trauma after we avoid being erased from space? Fine. We reached the throne. Velzeroth placed both hands on it. A portal opened behind the seat. Not blue like a normal return gate. Red. The system could not identify it. Park Do-yeon frowned. Where does that go? Velzeroth answered, Earth. Everyone relaxed. Then he added, probably. Everyone stopped relaxing. The castle tilted. Chunks of ceiling fell. We had no choice. One by one, the injured hunters entered the red gate. Lee Sora went first so she could prepare healing on the other side. Park Do-yeon followed. Han Yuri paused beside me. If we survive this, I am changing your contact name. To what? Not F-rank, creative. She smiled and jumped through. Seo Ji-hoon stayed. He looked at Velzeroth, then at me. Are you coming? I need 10 seconds. You always say things that make me regret knowing you. Go. He hesitated, then stepped into the portal. I turned to Velzeroth. Tell me who I was. The monster looked toward the collapsing ceiling. You were the first being the system could not rank. That is not an answer. You ruled the things humanity now calls monsters. Worse answer. You killed 3 gods. Much worse answer. You also built orphanages. I paused. That helps a little. Velzeroth stepped closer. His terrifying face softened, and then you learned why the gates were created. What are they? He opened his mouth. The blinking apple rolled out from under the throne. It split in half. A tiny black hand crawled from inside. Velzeroth's face changed. Go. What are the gates? Go now. The tiny hand became an arm. The arm became 10 arms. The throne began growing eyes. I grabbed Velzeroth. Come with me. He shook his head. I cannot leave. Why? He looked down. Black chains were still connected to his shadow. The prison needs a warden. Then cut them. You still think all chains are magic. The throne moved. I did not have time. I stepped toward the portal. Velzeroth called after me. My king. I turned. He threw something. A small black key. I caught it. The instant it touched my palm, I saw the 9 doors again. One of them opened a fraction. Something on the other side laughed. Velzeroth shouted, do not trust the first person who remembers you. That is extremely vague. The first person. Does that include you? He looked offended. Then the throne swallowed him. I jumped through the portal. For half a second, I felt nothing. Then I landed on concrete. I expected soul. I expected ambulances. I expected government agents. I expected 30 cameras pointed at my face because the elite hunters had witnessed an F-rank porter bully an SSS-Rank dungeon. Instead, I landed in a convenience store. Not near one. Inside one. I crashed through a display of instant noodles. A cashier stared at me. I stared at him. A package of spicy ramen slid off my head. Behind me, Han Yuri was sitting inside a freezer. Seo Ji-hoon had landed on the counter. Park Do-yeon was stuck halfway through the automatic door. Lee Sora was calmly drinking banana milk. I looked outside. People were walking normally. Cars moved down the street. No monsters. No ruined city. No emergency sirens. We had survived. Then the cashier looked at Seo Ji-hun. Cool costume. Seo Ji-hun blinked. I am Seo Ji-hun. Sure. Han Yuri climbed out of the freezer. The cashier pointed at her. And you are the frozen empress? Yes. Your wig is crooked. Han Yuri slowly touched her hair. I began to feel nervous. I walked outside. Across the street was a giant digital billboard. The date showed August 18. The year was wrong. Not by 1 year. By 12. We had entered the dungeon in 2026. The billboard said 2038. My mouth went dry. Park Do-yoon finally escaped the door. He saw the date. No. Seo Ji-hun came outside. His face went pale. Han Yuri stopped joking. Lee Sora quietly put down the banana milk. Then the billboard changed. An advertisement appeared. A famous hunter stood in silver armor, smiling beside the logo of the largest guild in the world. I recognized him. Everyone recognized him. He had been a young A rank when we entered the gate. Now the billboard called him the Supreme Hunter Association chairman. Under his image were the words, 12 years since the Namsan calamity. We remember the 33 heroes who entered and never returned. Han Yuri whispered. We were declared dead. My phone had no service. Seo Ji-hun tried his. Nothing. Park Do-yoon looked around like the city itself had betrayed him. Then every screen on the street went black. Phones, billboards, car displays, store televisions. All at once, a single white symbol appeared. An empty circle. The same symbol I had seen on one of the doors inside my memory. My black key became hot in my pocket. A voice came from every speaker. Welcome back, Kang Minjae. People stopped walking. Cars stopped moving. Thousands of faces turned toward the screens. The voice continued. We have been waiting 12 years for the Quiet King to return. Seo Ji-hun looked at me. Han Yuri looked at me. Park Do-yoon looked at me. Lee Sora looked at me. I looked at the nearest security camera. It turned to face me. Then the system interface reappeared in front of my eyes. For the first time in my life, it showed a rank beside my name. Not F. Not S. Not SSS. The letters kept changing so fast I could not read them. Then the screen cracked. A new message appeared underneath. Suppression seal. 1 of 9 released. Detected enemies who noticed. 7. Detected allies who noticed. 3. Detected traitors who noticed. 1. Distance to nearest traitor. 8 meters. Nobody spoke. I counted the people standing around me. Seo Ji-hun, Han Yuri, Park Do-yoon, Lee Sora, the cashier, 2 customers, and 1 man outside wearing a gray business suit, watching us from beneath the billboard, 8 meters away. He smiled at me. Then he said the exact words Velzaroth had warned me about. Minjae, his eyes turned black. You finally remember me.